Worth, the friendly village. The water tower along the I-294 tollway is visible to thousands of travelers every day. But few know that Worth itself had traveled a long road before its famous landmark was constructed in 1974. And perhaps fittingly, water plays an important role in shaping the village once again. Worth is part of the Illinois and Michigan Canal National Heritage Corridor. Even though the village is located about 5 miles from the I&M Canal itself, it is doubtless that the village of Worth, like countless other canal-side towns on Chicago's southwest side, owes much of its own existence to the economic prosperity that the canal brought to the fledgling city of Chicago. In the 1830s, much of the land surrounding the growing city of Chicago was being sold or given away by the federal government. Perhaps in speculation of the plans to build the I&M Canal, John Blackstone bought land in 1835 in one of the first recorded land sales involving what is now the village of Worth. A year later, Blackstone sold his property to DeWitt Lane, and this patch of high ground bordered by Stony Creek to the north and Sag Swamp to the south soon became known as Lane's Island. The construction of the I&M Canal began in 1836, but construction delays meant that the canal's full economic effects would not be felt until after its completion 12 years later in 1848. Then, in 1850, huge subsections on the outskirts of the ever-populating Chicago were officially designated. This area, Worth Township, was so named to commemorate General William Jenkins Worth, a U.S. war hero who died a year earlier after distinguishing himself during the Mexican-American War. Interestingly, the town of Fort Worth, Texas was also named in his honor. With the growing success of the I&M Canal, Stony Creek, which is Worth's northern border, was soon after adapted into a feeder canal to help maintain water levels in the ever-populating I&M. Work on the feeder canal helped create jobs for transient populations of workers in the area, and in 1858, Worth's first full-time resident, John Crandall, built a home for his family on what is now 111th Street. He even has a street named in his honor. 31 home-sized lots were soon occupied by other settlers, such as the Rickhoff, Biedenkopf, and Toby families, looking to farm the fertile land. The Toby family home, built in 1874, still exists and is one of the 40 buildings in the village recently recognized as historically significant. As farmers were slowly moving into the Worth area, railroads were quickly replacing canals as the primary mode of transportation in the U.S. Connecting to Chicago was an important goal for the Wabash Railway Company's massive rail network, and in 1882, a vital link was established running directly through what would become the heart of the village at the intersection of 111th Street and Harlem Avenue. Tickets were sold here, the original Wabash Station, built in 1880. Later, it was converted into a home for the Stromberg family. Another of the home's owners, Mary Mars, coincidentally had worked for the Wabash Railroad for 53 years. Her husband, Ray Mars, who died during World War I, has the American Legion Post number 991 named in his honor. The U.S. government established the Worth Post Office in the Wabash Station, using railway post office cars to serve mail to the Worth Township's burgeoning population. By 1883, the town had around 100 residents with their own train station, post office, church, and other businesses, such as Rust's Blacksmith Shop and Bishop's General Store, which would later serve as the second location for the post office. The next major population and business boost to the village came in the unlikely form of gambling. Horse racing was extremely popular in the city of Chicago, with over a half dozen tracks in the metropolitan region. In 1901, the Worth Racetrack was built at 111th Street and Ridgeland Avenue. Racetrack patrons visited from neighboring communities, boosting Worth's businesses and even necessitating the construction of a hotel near the Wabash train station. However, in addition to being a popular form of entertainment, gambling establishments attracted organized crime and simultaneous outrage from moral reformers of the time. The state of Illinois would finally put an end to gambling, and the Worth Racetrack closed. The racetrack site stood in disrepair until 1923, when Holy Sepulchre Cemetery was consecrated to serve Chicago's growing Catholic population. The late Mayor Richard J. Daley is buried in a section near the cemetery entrance on 111th Street. The same section also contains the burial place of Dan Ryan, longtime Cook County Board President. The turn of the 20th century brought Worth its first area physician and its first local newspaper. The influx of families brought with it the need for the first one-room schoolhouse. A second schoolhouse with 2 rooms would not be built until 1915, and the core of that building still exists today, albeit much larger, as part of Worth Elementary School at 111th Street and Oak Park Avenue. If the I&M Canal had served as the catalyst for settlement on Chicago's southwest side and in Worth, then government plans in 1911 to begin construction of another important waterway, the Calumet-Sag Channel, cemented Worth's long journey to become a village. Just as the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal was opened in 1900 to reverse the flow of the Chicago River, the Cal-Sag Channel, which runs along Worth's southern border, was designed to reverse the flow of the Calumet River by connecting it to the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal to the west. Hundreds of jobs became available in 1914 when construction of the Cal-Sag Channel began, and now, with some 300 permanent residents, the community needed an organized system of government. On September 22, 1914, the village held its first meeting in the home of newly elected president Harry Woods. In fact, his house still stands on Depot Street today. 3 weeks later, on October 9, 1914, the state issued a certificate of incorporation to the new village, making Worth the 5th incorporated village in Worth Township. The first village board was composed of familiar family names, including Crandall and Biedenkopf. Soon after incorporation, streets and sidewalks were constructed. Utilities such as gas and electricity were installed, and the police and fire departments were organized. Servicemen returning home from World War II began the trend of moving away from the city and into the suburban towns and communities. Still mostly undeveloped, Worth's small-town appeal was obvious. In those baby-booming years, Worth finally got a permanent village hall and police station, post office building, and 3 additional schools. Worth Terrace School at 115th and Beloit no longer functions as a school, but is home to the Worth Park District Historical Museum and Historical Society. Since its inception in 1994, the museum is dedicated to the preservation of Worth's history and to providing opportunities to the present-day community. Visitors have a chance to view interesting memorabilia from Worth's past and can take part in contributing to the future by volunteering or becoming a member. By 1958, a special census reported that Worth now had nearly 8,000 residents occupying its 2-square-mile area. Residents then and Worth's 11,000 residents now have always played a role in shaping Worth's history as not just a village, but also a community. Worth Days is an annual community celebration held since the late 1950s. What began as a simple picnic in Deasing's Grove has since developed into a weekend-long fair, culminating in a parade along 111th Street, and an opportunity for local businesses and organizations to show their support for the community. The village also sponsors everything from a classic automobile show to a Civil War weekend, offering activities and an immersive look at Civil War-era history. The Veterans Memorial Park and Eternal Flame Monument on the corner of 111th Street and Harlem Avenue was completed in 1993 to honor military veterans. And alongside the Cal-Sag Channel, previously unused spaces have become athletic fields, walking paths, and a boat launch. In 1999, an 18-hole championship golf course appropriately named Water's Edge opened and is owned and operated by the Village of Worth. Across the street from the golf course is one of 5 side-stream elevated pool aeration or SEPA stations built on the Cal-Sag to enhance the aquatic environment along the 42-mile stretch of waterway between Lake Michigan and the town of Lockport. Yet another example of the ever-increasing awareness of the important role these waterways have played in shaping the city of Chicago and all small towns in the surrounding area. The Village of Worth has always been a small town, but from the first settlers, to the farmers, to the canal builders, to all residents since and into the future, the village has a renewed determination to maintain its self-appointed status as Worth, the Friendly Village.